Hello, I'm Miss Allison, and I'll be your music teacher for today. And we will do some moving, and we'll be using some instruments. You can use your instrument that you are learning in lesson, and we will be doing some chanting. But before we begin with the lesson, I'd like to warm up our bodies and our ears. And so we're going to do a game. The game is called Mousy Mousy, and it's a listen to the music and freeze when you don't hear it kind of game. So let's start. Find a space on the floor where you're not touching anything or anybody, and you can run in place when you hear my drum sound. Mousy, mousy, in the housey, hurry, hurry do, or the kitty in the housey will be chasing you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mousy, mousy, in the housey, hurry, hurry do, or the kitty in the housey will be chasing you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mousy, mousy, in the housey, hurry, hurry do, or the kitty in the housey will be chasing you. 1. So the longer we go, the higher the numbers get. The higher the numbers get, the longer we run. So I want you to stand up and put your hands down towards your feet. And we're going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and back down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and back down. 1, 2, 3, 4, and back down. 1, 2, down. 1. So you can see how long and slow our movements have to be to extend up to 8 counts. We don't just go all the way up there. We have to gradually get up there. All right? So that's called duration. Duration is part of rhythm, and duration is the length of a note. It's how long we hold it. So that's a little bit on duration. The next thing we're going to do is some rhythms. And we're going to start out with me doing a rhythm and you doing it back. So just imitate what I do. Here's the beat. 1, 2, my turn. Your turn. My turn. All right, so we have some new rhythms in there that we will look at later, but you probably recognize them and have already played them, particularly if you are taking the Suzuki method. The next thing we're going to do is called improvisation. I'm going to clap a rhythm, and I want you to change one thing in that rhythm when you clap it back to me. So if I do this, you may do this. So one thing is changed. So my turn first, and then your turn. And I'll keep the beat going so we stay together. 1, 2, my turn. Your turn. How'd you do? You may want to rewind this and try it again with your instrument and get used to playing and thinking as you play on the spot, as it were, to make something up. Another thing you could do, if you're a Suzuki student in particular, you've started with the twinkle rhythms, you could make up your own rhythms to those. You could play Mississippi Hot Dog backwards, or Run Susie backwards. Whatever the syllables you are that you use with your teacher, you can just reverse them and play it that way. And then you could just make up your own and play through the piece that way. Get a friend or a teacher to play with you a different rhythm, so you get used to playing your rhythm while someone else is playing a different rhythm. So all of those things are things that you can do in your practice and in your lesson. So the next thing that we're going to get into here requires your help. I'm going to read a book. But before we do that, we need to create a rhythm section. So you can use a drum, you can use your hands, you can use your instrument that you're taking lessons on, doesn't matter, as long as you can make sound. And we're going to do a rhythm that we've just explored and do it over and over again throughout the book. And that's called an ostinato, when we repeat the same thing over and over. In this case, we're repeating a rhythm that you've chosen to do. Now, before we get on the instrument, I want you to think of a movement that would show, would demonstrate what your rhythm is. For example, if you did this, you may do a movement that is, you can use your whole body, but just be careful that you can't make it too big and keep it going and stay in tempo. So it has to be rather small motions. And so you have a choice to do your motions throughout the book, or make a sound and play your rhythms throughout the book. If you have siblings or friends over, you can have them do different rhythms. And they can either do motions with their rhythms, or they can make a sound with their rhythms. And that way, we've got a rhythm section. We're creating an orchestra that will accompany our book. So our book is called 17 Kings and 42 Elephants. It is written by Margaret Mahy, and pictures are by Patricia McCarthy. It is a Penguin book, And it was copyrighted in 1987 in New York City. So I'm going to start out with a beat, and you can start your rhythm when you're ready. 1, 2. 17 kings on 42 elephants going on a journey through a wild, wet night. Baggy ears like big umbrella fence, little Isaac gleaming in the jungle light. 17 kings saw white-toothed crocodiles romping in the river where the reeds grow tall. Green-eyed dragons, rough as crocodiles, lying in the mud where the small crabs crawl. 42 elephants, oh, what a lot of them, big feet beating in the wet wood shade. Proud and ponderous, hippopotamus danced to the music that the marchers made. 17 kings sang loud and happily. 42 elephants swayed to the song. Tigers at the riverside drinking loudly knew the kings were happy as they marched along. Who joined the sing-song? Cranes and pelicans, peacocks fluttering their fine fan tails. Flamingos chanting, ding-dong bellicans, rosy as a garden in the jungle waves. Tinkling tunesters, twangling trillicons, butterflied and fluttered by the great green trees. Big bamboosters, black gorillicans, swinging from the branches by their hairy knees. Kings in crimson, crowns all crystalline, moving to the music of a single gong. Waters in the jungle, moist and mistaline, bibble, bubble, babble to the bing, bang, bong. 17 kings, the heavy night swallowed them. Raindrops glistened on the elephants' backs. Nobody stopped them. Nobody followed them. The deep, dark jungle has devoured their tracks. So, were you able to keep your ostinato going through the whole book? It's a challenge, and you have to start it when I start reading. You have to end it when I finish reading. We have to begin and end together. So, let's look at some of the rhythms that we just performed. First, we're going to review our walking step is a quarter note. When we see this, we'll say 1. Half note. We see this, we call this a 2. Eighth notes. When we see these, we call these 1-ands. And now we have a new one. And I call this Mississippi. So this is a Mississippi rhythm. Those are 16th notes. All right. So let's start, and then I'm going to stop in the end, toward the middle to the end of this, to go over some things that I think you will be ready to do, which is to read rhythms and patterns. So we'll get there. We're going to start easy. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and. Come now, look and say. 1, 1 and 1 and 1 and. Come now, look and say. 1, 1 and 1, 1 and. Come now, look and say. 1, 1, 1 and 1 and. Come now, look and say. 1, 1 and 1 and 1. Come now, look and say. 2, 1 and 1. Come now, look and say. 1 and 1 and 2. Come now, look and say. 2, Mississippi 1. Come now, look and say. So here's where I'm going to stop. This is called a rest. We've done rests. We've just not talked about them. But naughty kitty cat, rest. You are very fat, rest. You've done that. We've done all around the buttercup. 1, 2, 3, rest. So rest is a beat of silence in this case. And so this would be 1 Mississippi, shh, Mississippi. Come now, look and say. Aha. So we've got Mississippi 1 and, but really that's Mississippi hot dog. We know that as one unit if we've started out with our Suzuki rhythms. So when we see this unit, we call that Mississippi hot dog. 1, 1, Mississippi hot dog. Come now, look and say. Mississippi hot dog, Mississippi hot dog. Come now, look and say. Mississippi hot dog 1, 1. Come now, look and say. Hot dog, Mississippi hot dog 1. Come now, look and say. 1 Mississippi hot dog 1. Come now, look and say. 1, 1, Mississippi. Come now, look and say. 1 Mississippi hot dog 1. Come now, look and say. Mississippi hot dog, Mississippi. So we're reading the way we would in music, and that we don't stop and we keep a beat. So the goal is to be able to read and play what you've just read while you're looking at what is coming next. That is called tracking, getting your eyes to work ahead of your body. Okay, so we're going to try a little bit of that. We'll go a little bit slower tempo, about 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 1 and 1, shh, look and say. 1, 1, 1, shh, look and say. 1, shh, 1, shh, look and say. 1, 1, shh, 1, look and say. 2, shh, 1, look and say. 1, 1 and shh, 1. 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. 1 and 1. 1 and 1. 1. 1 and 1 and 1. 1 and 1 and 1. 2. 1 and 1. 1 and 1 and 2. 2. Mississippi 1. 1. Mississippi, shh. Mississippi 1, 1. Mississippi hot dog. Mississippi hot dog. Mississippi hot dog. Mississippi hot dog 1, 1. Hot dog, Mississippi hot dog 1, 1. Mississippi hot dog 1, 1, 1. Shh. Mississippi 1. Mississippi hot dog 1. Mississippi hot dog, Mississippi. Okay, that's a little more challenging, but that's teaching your eyes what they're supposed to do when you read. So that's an important skill to develop. So the rhythm that is new is our 16th note rhythm, Mississippi. And if we try to do that with our feet, it would be faster than a run. It'd be hard to do it in tempo. So it's easier to clap it, because there's a smaller motion, we can control it better. So I'm going to do a poem, and I'm going to do a song, and this song we'll be using in a later lesson. But the poem has 16th notes in it. And I'm going to say the poem first and see if you can hear where those 16th notes are. And then I'm going to clap the rhythm and see. Actually, I'm going to use the wood block because I think it's easier to hear it. So you can hear just the rhythm and see if you can find that. So the poem goes like this. Deedle dumpling, my son John went to bed with the stockings on. One shoe off and one shoe on. Deedle dumpling, my son John. So if I did just the rhythm to deedle dumpling, it would be. So I don't have just a Mississippi in there. I have a Mississippi hot dog. Do you hear it? Mississippi hot dog, my son John. Deedle dumpling is Mississippi hot dog. Do you hear it again? It happens later. There it is. Okay, so that's what it sounds like when we hear it in the context of a phrase. Another thing that we can do is hear it when we are singing it. So here's a song that goes, chatter with the angels early in the morning, chatter with the angels all night long, chatter with the angels early in the morning, chatter with the angels all night long. So let's see if it has a Mississippi hot dog rhythm in it or something else. Is there a Mississippi hot dog? Chatter with the angels. It is a Mississippi hot dog rhythm, isn't it? So that's what it would sound like if we had melody with it. So Mississippi rhythms. Now, I've got a couple of tunes that I want to play for you. The first one is by a man that lived many years ago in the Renaissance period. He was toward the end of the medieval period, beginning of the Renaissance. So he was around 1300s. That's a long time ago. And music back then was either social, where it was party music, or it was for the church. So it was considered sacred music. And sometimes the social music and the sacred music would merge a little bit, and they become influencers of each. And this is an example of that. This comes from a mass, and a mass is definitely a sacred work. And so it is performed in church by the monks. And this particular mass is based on a social tune, The One-Armed Man. So I don't know what the story is behind The One-Armed Man, but this is a tune that was popular in the 1400s, okay? And you will hear the tune sung, and then it becomes the basis of the entire mass. And so it makes me think of our rhythm section and how we layered on top of layer with how we made that accompaniment. So it's not just rhythm, there's also pitch. But every line is independent. Every line has its own melody, its own importance. And they work together really beautifully. But there's not really a clear, this is the melody and this is the accompaniment part, the way we're used to in songs. So this is an example of what we created with our book on elephants today. So the other thing I wanted to share with you is very different. It is a fiddle tune. And this is from my Irish band, when I was playing in an Irish band for a number of years. And I played fiddle. And playing fiddle is very different than playing the violin. And you hold it differently, and the music's different, and even the technique is different, and even the bowing patterns and the way you practice it and want to present it is very different than what we learn as classical musicians. And I found it really fun and challenging to do. But what I want you to listen to is how the violin starts, or the fiddle, and then there's another layer that's added to that. And you tell me if that layer, it's a guitar, you tell me if that guitar is accompanying me. Is it supportive, or is it a completely different part that is just as important as my part? Let's listen and see. So this piece is called Sevens. It was actually written by a Cape Breton fiddler. And let's see here. So this is an example of melody and harmony, isn't it? The guitar part is just accompanimental. It's very important. It provides a rhythmic and harmonic base that's important, but the violin is actually front and center in this particular one. So it's very different than what we listened to in the first example, the Defy. So, in case you're interested, oh goodness, I wasn't thinking that I would sell anything, but I don't have any of the information in front of me. But this is a CD that the group that I was in put out a number of years ago, and so it is published, and I should probably have that available. But at any rate, thank you for listening today.